Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. I'm going to do a very different kind of video on this rifle, because you'll probably seen I've done the full review on this. It's a CZ457, it's the stainless synthetic camo, and it's a really nice rifle, and I think it's very representative of kind of regular rifle people are going to aspire to for hunting, shooting, 2.2 rimfire. And what I want to do is experiment with it, because these days everybody knows that 50 meters you can shoot pretty well, but people want to shoot longer distances, they want to shoot steel targets, and they want to know how easy it is to do. Now, if you go through my channel, and I'll put some links to this, I've done a video pushing quite an old CZ452 with a regular 3 to 9x40 scope on it, out to 300 meters. And I did it, but I won't say it wasn't complicated, and I won't say it's not difficult, because you're doing a lot of counting clicks and remembering where things were, and you know the lesser scopes don't adjust quite as fluidly and as repetitively. So you learn something and then you got to kind of relearn it, and it doesn't always work the same every time. So that was a kind of a one-off thing just to see how far I can shoot that. Conversely to that, I've done the CZ457 LRP, which I actually own, and I've shot that out well beyond 300 meters on multiple occasions, and I've done full reviews on that video probably about 3 years ago now. I'll put the link to that as well. This is totally representative of what people might want to own or aspire to now, and on top I've put an Element Helix 2 to 16x50 scope on it, which has got, you know, easily dialable turrets. I can do the zero stop on this, I can set up the windage, zero all the dials, I've got adjustable parallax, adjustable illumination intensity, and I've got a throw lever so I can play backwards and forwards with magnification to suit me what I need. And I believe it is also, this one is though second focal planes, so I can't use the full focal plane measuring and aiming system, but what I'm going to do is concentrate on dialing. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is zero this rifle at 50 meters as exactly as I can, and I'm not going to use a rangefinder, I'm not going to use any kind of chronograph, because I want it to be as simple as possible for the equipment you may own. Now, okay, we can all Google Earth measurements, you might have got a measuring tape, measure out 50 meters, because that's your critical starting point. So what I want to do is take just some regular match ammunition and get it zeroed as accurately as possible. Now, I go through a lot of ammunition. I'm trying to pick at something I've got a regular amount of, and I won't run out of, because once I start developing data, I would rather not change ammunition, because of course I kind of lose where I am. Now, the primary zero won't move that far, but you'd be amazed by how much a bit of a velocity difference or a ballistic coefficient difference will make when you are pushing the distances. So I'll load this up now, put 5 rounds in it, and I'm just going to check zero on this rifle, because as I said, I did the full review on it and I haven't, you know, remembered what it was. I'm going to do that now. Couple of things we'll say. I've not got a chronograph, well, I'm not going to use a chronograph, I have about 5 of them, and I'm not going to mess about with ballistic coefficients, because what I want to do is I want to do this all with DOPE, which is data on previous engagement. And the thing is, it's all very well learning on the internet and learning with all these digital calculators and ballistic computers and things like that, but do you actually learn much about shooting? Do you actually trial and error, which is, you know, a huge amount of the enjoyment of it? And of course the great fun with 2.2 rimfire is it's not too expensive. Like an air rifle, if you learn with these, those are all transferable skills to larger calibers and chamberings. So let's go for it. And I'm going to say, I've measured out 50 meters. I'm on my usual short test range for air rifles and rimfires, and I'm going to precisely zero this rifle now. I've obviously left it somewhere out because that's quite a long way from zero. Again, I'm shooting from bench, I've got a stable rest bag, good stable position. And with the rifle held stationary, I can watch the reticle moving. So if I, point the reticle at my aim point and then hold the rifle steady and then move the reticle to where the bullets hit, I've then got, basically my adjustment, and it's simple. So I'm now going through the centre diamond. That last one didn't feed for some reason. So I've now got my zero in the centre of the target. It's not the smallest group I've ever shot, but it's a good adequate starting point, and critically I know that is at 50 metres. So the next stage is I need to reset my turret. Now it would appear that if I'm at one click away from where it was before, so it could well be that it was reset. You can reset your zero stops and things like that. I'm not going to just at this time because I'm trying to do this dynamically, fairly live on camera. So I'll reset that to zero, and now there are two things I can do. I can get a free online ballistics calculator and I can program all my details in, or I can just keep moving back on a fairly large target, see where my bullets are striking and take note of the dimensions and all the corrections I need to make to get them dialed on. Now I know, for example, that this is doing probably around 1,030 feet per second. That's about what it does. If you look for manufacturers' data, they usually generate it on their website, or you can find things online like that. But generally speaking, it varies in every rifle slightly anyway, and your rifle might be different. It might be a 16-inch, it might be a 20-inch barrel, could make small variations. I'm using a sound moderator purely because I like the silence and quiet of subsonic ammunition, but the thing is, by using the dope principle and working back, we can actually note all our data, and we don't need those expensive measuring tools yet to actually get out to a certain decent distance, because the calculations and corrections you'll make will actually not be far away from what you might read about online. I, for example, know that from 50 to 100 metres is going to be 2.1 mils because I've just done it so many times with different rifles. And yes, it might vary by 0.1 of a mil, 0.2 of a mil here or there, but generally speaking, it's about the same. I am going to be working in milliradians today just because that's my preferred unit, but minutes of angle are exactly the same, and all you need to do is note how many clicks you're putting on, what your dials or your turrets are actually showing you, and keep note of it. Data on previous engagement, keep a notebook. That is what is critical about this whole thing. So I'm at 50 metres, we can say go up to 75 metres or go up to 100 metres. I know what the drops are going to be at 100 metres. I know off the top of my head from 20 years ago that it's about 7 inches from a 50-yard zero to a 100-yard shot on a rabbit. It's about 7-inch drop. But I tend to work in metric now just because that's how my brain works. So let's move back distances. I'm going to put a large white target up on my target board so I can see the bullet strikes easily and I'm not confused by actual marks on the target or previous bullet holes. You can of course do this directly into a sound backstop, but it depends on yourself, and of course you can also do it on a steel gong, but you might be walking backwards and forwards having to respray it occasionally just to cover up your previous bullet marks. Let's see how we get on. Now this principle works with any scope in whatever units you're using it in. I'm trying to keep it simple to make sure that nobody gets left out, but this scope does actually have a zero stop on it, and for simplicity's sake I am going to use my zero stop. So essentially I'd let that drop there, turn it all the way clockwise to the stop, and then nip up the little grub screws in it. And that now means I can't get what I call lost in my elevation. So when I put the turret cap back on here, marking zero, and screw the little cap down, different scopes are just in different ways, I now know that I can't dial below my 0 point. I will only dial up or to longer distance. So if I start dialing this now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 milliradians per rotation, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 milliradians, that's 2 rotations, 13, nearly 14 milliradians travel I have got left. And if I dial that all the way back to the 0 stop, I know I'm back at my 50 meter zero. Now, I haven't put adjustable mounts on this scope, and I haven't got any kind of inclined Picatinny rail. It's just on the standard 11mm dovetails at the moment. Depending on how we get on today and how many parts I make this video into, we might start adding some of those features to it just to give us more range if we want it to. But the thing to remember is that if you're going to keep this rifle usable as a hunting rifle, you need to make sure you've got that fairly close range zero at 50 meters. Otherwise, you're just left unable to take normal shots aiming at the actual animal itself if you're using it for hunting. Right, you can probably see I've moved to a set of tripod sticks. That's purely because I don't want to be moving the bench around today and the ground is incredibly muddy. I didn't bring my shooting mat, I don't want to be laid down in it. I also don't want to be taking freehand shots, which are great for improvised situations, but I want some kind of reasonable basis for this. Now, it doesn't matter which system you use, but try and be consistent start to finish. And once you've got that data in and developed in your notebook, then you can start experimenting with different positions and seeing if it changes the way you shoot at all and things like that you might want to experiment more with. Now, I have put a set of laser rangefinders around my neck purely because I just want to know. The point is, if you've got, you know, known ranges and you've got no marker boards on them, you know what those distances are and you can add that data into your notebook. Or if you're practicing in the field, you can use Google Earth, you know, go to that gate, go to that fence post, go to that tree, etc. And that's the way you can put your data in for distances. If you don't have a long measuring tape or a laser rangefinder or something like that, a lot of scopes now even include laser rangefinders as well. But I still think it's easier to do all this with a regular daylight optic for target shooting. Anyway, if you want a big piece of white paper, just use Decorator's lining paper. Go to a DIY shop, comes in a roll, it's probably 20 meters long, it's probably 60 centimeters wide, whatever it is. Just roll it out, stick it on, and just put a small aiming mark in the center, just so you can see it without causing too much disruption to being able to see the bullet marks as well. Now, there is the possibility, if you wanted to, you could aim to the side of your aiming mark so that your bullets are always going to be in a line up and down, actually not in the aiming mark. But now I've just moved back here, I just sort of picked a random distance where I'd walk to, and I'm actually at 88 meters. So now I'm going to take a few shots on target and see where those bullets land. They don't need to be the best shots in the world, but be aware that you're going to have to average out all this data. And if you are shooting from a bench in zero wind conditions or laid prone in zero wind conditions, yes, that's going to give you more accurate data. But for the sake of today, we're not going in the mud. So I can now see my bullet holes on target. They are down near the bottom of the board, but I'm still on my 50 meter zero at 88 meters. So let's just not go crazy and dial up. And of course you can do this walk back in the small increments as small as you want them to make sure you're not going to over dial a correction and miss the top of your target. I, for example, know that 2.1 mils or 21 clicks will put me on at 100 meters. So I'm just going to arbitrarily guess about 1.5 mils and take a couple more shots and see where that puts me. And I'm just level with the red spot now. Wasn't the best shot, I was wobbling a little bit. I think I put that one just off the red spot at 4 o'clock. So we were about right there. What I could do, again, I'm doing this from sticks for speed and simplicity. When you're doing it from a bench or from prone or from a really stable position with rest bags or bipods and things like that, the data you enter will be a lot more accurate. So I'm just going to put a couple more clicks on there and I'm going to shoot another 5 and see if I can put 5 in that red spot. And when I get to the end of the day, of course that data book should be full of data, and it's all data on a previous engagement. I don't know yet what my velocity is. It'll be around about 1,020, 1,040 feet per second, something like that. And I haven't even measured things like bore height, which I'll do in the workshop afterwards. It'll be somewhere 50 to 60 millimeters. And the simplest way to do it is imagine that your stock is usually level with the center of the bore, and the gap between your scope ring top and bottom is also usually the center of your tube. So if you put that in as a starting dimension, all those things can be refined. And if you do use a ballistic computer or a ballistic app on your phone or something like that, you can start to play with all these figures. But don't get too far awash with all the data until you really understand what each variable changes. And especially for air gun shooters and rimfire shooters, the actual point blank zero and factors are very, very critical on actual scope height. And a lot of new air rifles have actually got a large distance between the bore height and the scope height. Whereas if you look at a centerfire, there's not many of them go beyond 60 millimeters, and you're shooting incredible distances with those in comparison. So be aware that you do need to start thinking a lot about this bore to scope height if you're shooting particularly short ranges and you want to have very accurate data. Again, this isn't going to be the smallest group in the world because I'm not super stable, but I'm getting an idea now where my mean point of impact is with that data corrections I've put in. And I'm running 88 meters and I'm running 1.7 milliradians of elevation. If you want to do it in minutes of angle, just work in minutes of angle. Neither will let you down. I'm going to go forward now, have a closer look at that target and see exactly what it looks like. Right, we're down at the target. So those were the first few shots I shot with the 50 meter zero at 88 meters, and then we moved on and shot these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just write on the target, and I'm going to put the range, which is 88 meters. I have to forgive my handwriting because I'm sort of at a funny angle here, and that is at 50 meter zero. And then I'm going to move on to these, and I'm going to put 88 meters, and I'm going to put 1.7 milliradians. Okay, and that is that group there. So we can continue now to refine this data. If you want to replace the target sheet every time you can, sometimes it's a lot easier to do it on steel. If you've got steel available, just a quick spray of white paint. But essentially, I'm just going to carry on now, and I'm going to keep walking further back and see how we get on. Right, we're now back, and I've just sort of set myself up. I have used the laser rangefinder. It happens to be 104 meters, but I'm standing in the middle of one of the gateways, so if you're a Google Earth person, you could use your measurements that way. Just going to reload the magazine, and then I'll take 5 shots using the current 1.7 milliradian adjustment, which was what we used at 88 meters, and we're now at 104 meters. So these are yet again going to strike low. But although I know the correct dimension for this, I'm not going to use it because I want to illustrate on target where these bullets are actually going to hit. I just hope my eyesight's good enough to see these bullet holes through the scope. Now I'm actually going to hold a mil left on this because I want to drop the bullets into clean space, just for visual impact. There is also a reasonable amount of breeze I'm noticing here, which is also going to blow them to the left because I can feel it directly in my face on the angle I'm looking at the camera. Okay, I can see that bullet hole. Again, it's down near the bottom of the paper. Let me just shoot one more. That's actually landed quite a long way from it. This illustrates the fact my stable position is not that stable. It's all right for hunting and for shooting in the field, but it's not the kind of position you want to base all your data on. Now I can actually see a group forming now that I'm developing a bit of a shooting rhythm rather than stepping away and talking to camera. I can see that that group is low. It's probably about 10-15 centimeters low, but again, this is a second focal plane scope, so I can't measure that with the reticle itself. That is the big joy of a first focal plane scope. This will work in mils at a specific magnification, but off the top of my head, I don't know what that magnification is. I think it might be actually at full power. And in fact, let's give it a go, because the dial on this scope is marked red at full power, so perhaps it is milling at full power. We shall measure it and see what it looks like and dial the same correction and see if I'm miles away or not. Right, I would estimate it's about a mil low. So we're on 1.7, let's go to 2.7. Again, we're shooting out to the left of the target deliberately. So hopefully these ones are going to land roughly level with the red dot in the centre. Again, I'm standing up and down, I'm braking position. It's not ideal, but I'm having fun. So I've got a group there. It's a kind of flat strung across group, which is a windage error. The group is within, I think that red spot is a 50mm spot. So the group is actually within that 50mm height, just spread a little bit left and right, probably about 75mm, 100mm maybe. It's not particularly critical, but the point is now I've got a ballpark ballistic solution for 104 meters of 2.7 milliradians. So if I go forward, I can write this on the target or I can put it on my notebook and I know roughly what's going on. And we can start measuring this target. Right, we're down at the target now. If I remember what I did here, that is the very errant shot that we took with the first shot on 1.7 milliradians. So let's just put here 104 meters. Okay, and that's this group here. So that we're going to cross out. This one we're going to put in at 1.7 mils. And then this one we're going to put in at 2.7 mils. And we can take this away and we can measure all these dimensions here. And these will give us, you know, accurate dimensions, and we can actually work out what adjustments we would have needed to make exactly a mils. Because of course, a mil at 100 meters is 10 centimeters. At 1,000 meters, it's a whole meter. But if we're shooting kind of random distances like 88 meters and 104 meters, well, for example, you need to be multiplying by 0.88 or 1.04 to get the correct value for what a mil actually is going to be at those distances. And remember, it's a second focal plane scope, this one, so we can't rely exactly on the reticle subtension, but we're at a first focal plane scope. That would make it easier, and why they are particularly good for long range shooting, providing you of course can subtend the reticle on the target accurately. But anyway, let's see how far we can push this, because in terms of the 50mm patch, you know, that's a little bit high. Probably take a couple of clicks off there, a couple of clicks down, and we can carry on working. Anyway, forgive my handwriting because I'm kind of scribbling in the field, kneeling in a load of mud. But what a lovely day, and it's actually sunny for a change, which is quite rare. Right, I think that's enough for today. I'm quite enjoying doing this because it's nice to sort of go back to basic principles, and I'm going to make this video in multiple parts, so please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell to make sure you're going to be notified when these videos are coming up. If you want to make any pertinent comments, please do so, because I can add that then into the next step of the video, which will probably be maybe next week, 10 days away. As it happens, I'm travelling down to WMS Firearms in Wales next week, so I've got the opportunity if I want to shoot absolutely crazy distances, but I think for now 300 to 500 meters is pushing it with a rimfire, but I will take the additional mounts with me as well, so I can actually add more elevation to the scope if required, because at 104 meters we are at 2.7 mils, which is not really very far, but the further you get out, the quicker it starts ramping up and you need a lot more adjustment. Right, thank you for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell and put good comments, because I'll include them in the next film. But if you want to know any more details about the equipment I'm using, I'll try and put it all in the description or add it to the next video. So thank you for watching. Bye for now.